back to the Ennui Talk podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Winter, by himself. Got a little stream deck, and when I press the record button, it records on OBS. And I've noticed that every time I do it, OBS just goes widescreen, and I couldn't figure it out. Then I had my internet browser open, and then when I pressed the button, it did the same thing. So I think that I've set up the shortcut with the exact same shortcut that makes things go widescreen. Starting a podcast is hard. Continuing one is harder. What episode are we on? Let me just have a look. It's episode 235. Woo. And you might be noticing that I am by myself. I'll get into that. But first, I wanted to discuss, was the last episode before that? This is like months ago, 3-4 months ago. I did an episode called Clickbait, of course. We're quitting our jobs to become full-time YouTubers. I made some big claims. In the episode, I'm pretty sure that I mentioned that I'm going to leave McDonald's and make this little YouTube channel my life. And guess what happened? Went back to McDonald's. To give an actual bit of context. So I left my little town I was in, Mudgee, nice little place. Pretty bad coke epidemic there, but that's fine. Moved back home. Back to my little hometown, and I was unemployed for 3 months because I thought, I've got all these skills, leadership skills, communication skills. I can make a good burger, and I was unemployed for 3 months because of it, because nobody thought I could, lead good enough, or communicate good enough, or flip a burger good enough. But I don't know. I had a job interview at Coles. I went from, when I was at McDonald's, I was, doing rosters and doing a bit of the training as well. I was actually in charge of both. I was for the longest time. Came into Coles, had an interview, and they were like, it's going to be a bit hard. Like, I know that you're not used to like being in charge of 30 people. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, sure. I have been, but that's fine. It's a bit of a hard job. You got to make sure everybody's, doing their job. And I'm like, okay, you work at Coles, like I worked at McDonald's. They're both pretty, shit kicker jobs. Not shit kicker jobs. Like some of the management jobs, like, once you step up, there's a lot going on. Understandably. Like, I'm not going to discredit that. But also, you do work at Coles, and I did work at McDonald's. Like, it's grease money to me. I didn't get the job. They said I wasn't suitable for the role. Absolute bullshit, Coles. I'll never be shopping there again, obviously. Back to Woolworths, the fresh food people. But, I did apply for a lot of other jobs, a lot online. I thought I could be, this little digital nomad. Let's work from home. I don't know. Let's do like what sort of jobs did I apply for? Even like accounting jobs from home, because I've done like payroll for businesses and shit like that. And what do I get? I got nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. Literally, the Coles job was the only one that, I even really got more than a rejection email. So it's fine. Back at McDonald's now, in a good position. Don't worry about me. I'm happy. I'm good. But, this is the dream. Not just like making podcasts or making vids for the internet, but, just the creator economy is growing each and every day. That's a lot of the concept. That's a lot of the content that I consume, podcast wise and YouTube wise. It's looking at creators. Like, I'm not going to say I'm going to be the next Mr. Beast or PewDiePie, or ideally not Shane Dawson. He fucked a cat at one point, I heard. Rumor. Maybe he made a joke about it on his podcast. But like, this is the dream. I want to be working on the online sphere, doing a bit of business stuff in between. Like, I'm an influencer, surely. People look up to me. Surely. We'll go with that. If you're wondering what I'm pressing now, I'm pressing the little clip button because I thought it was a little bit funny. If I do have actual like serious advice following your dreams, that was one of the notes I had. Just do it. Just like Mr. Nike said, just do it. I think you've just got to, You got to prioritize. Like, I understand, like, I'm a 26-year-old man now, and, maybe I should sort of have some sort of like stability in my life, and I do, but it doesn't mean that I can't work hard on my days off, on my weekends, or after work. But if you have a dream, just dream it, just do it, chip away at it, chip away at it every day, and you'll get there eventually. Maybe after like 8 years of trying to make something work, maybe you should look in the mirror and go, am I really going to make it big on YouTube? And when you move back in your mum's basement, maybe you should go, is this really going to work? That's not from personal experience, definitely not. But I'm back in it, back home, live with mummy and daddy because there's no rentals in my area. I can afford it, I promise. And I don't really like living with people. Like in general, like, I'll live with mum and a home cooked dinners, sure. With a roommate. Not that I've had bad roommate experiences, but I have. I think the biggest thing for me is like, not that I'm a control freak. I just really, really think that, I don't know, maybe I have different morals to people. Like, I like having a clean place, I should say. Other people don't. I don't know. I think that for me, it's like, I just like having my own space, doing things whenever I want to do it. Not like, I don't know. I don't just like relying on other people to get shit done. Like, hey, can you vacuum the floors? And they're not done when I get home from work. And it's not, I'm not a Nazi. I'm not a clean freak. I just like having, a general clean area to eat in and cook in and sleep in. I'll do my washing. I'll clean my room. Nice little, what do you call it? What's the things that come out with the nice smelly stuff? The incense, I don't know, but I have vanilla flavor. I have a mint flavor as well. Because apparently when you get older, you care about those sort of things. Apparently. I probably should address, the fact that every single episode of the Ennui Talk podcast in the past has been with a co-host. Back in the day, it was the boys, the OGs, Chris, Brad, Hayden, and there were some guests for a while. None of them of any relevance now. But then like recently there was last year there was me and Sam Davis, shout out, and Ben who's always been a constant. I should mention Kieran and Jack who helped out for a few years there, but we won't. But for the last year, it was me and Ben. That was the product. I'm not just a podcaster. I'm not just a let's talk shit. I'm a businessman. I'm business savvy. And my thought was, hey, let's focus on just you and me, bring in the audience that way, not just, oh, who's this shithead with Matt this week? Because, I just thought that'd help the podcast grow more. And then you get to a point where it's like, okay, you're turning 27 this year. And Ben's got the house. Ben's engaged. Congratulations. Ben's stepping up at work. And, he can't put all his time into it like he probably could have when he was 19, 20, which he did. And I'm very, very grateful for that. And the one thing I want to say to Ben is, honestly, go fuck yourself because, now I've got to do this all by myself. Seriously, don't dedicate yourself to something if you're not going to fucking follow through. But what I really want to say is, I think that I've always sort of relied on other people to make this work. And you know what? That's why the Ennui Talk podcast is going to be mostly me. Ben will be on sometimes. Maybe we'll have just me every week and there'll be a secondary episode every week or every 2 weeks. Maybe not every week. And don't think the videos are not going to come, even though probably the last actual video uploaded was like a year and a half ago. When I make something, when I make a YouTube video, I don't just want it to be this little shitty, like, I don't know. I don't like sketch comedy that much. I do. I do. I shouldn't say I don't like it. I just don't think that it's the stuff that I enjoy making. I think the stuff I enjoy making has story, and okay, it does have story. You might look at some of my older videos that think they don't. There's like a dick joke or there's a cum joke. Sidebar, there's your cult, you know, your cult little, like the little, looks like it's like a milk. It's like, I don't know, maybe it's pure milk. I don't actually know what it is, but it has the consistency of cum. Do what you want with that information. But, you know, the dream is still here. We'll still make some videos. We've still got my good man Kaz who can hold a camera. Shout out Kaz if you're listening. You probably are. I'm probably sending this to you after because I'm like, oh shit, I'm doing a podcast on myself now. Can you listen to it and, you know, tell me it's great? And you'll probably respond and say, I think having a co-host is good because you're not as funny on your own. Maybe that was a good joke. I don't know. Look, I don't know if I'm funny on my own. And that's the other thing. This is an experiment. I know that I can, you know, do a good goof and a good gaff and make some good jokes. I love comedy, and that's sort of what this Ennui started as, me wanting to make some goof and gaffs, you know. But now I'm 27 and I need to do it. I'm not 27 yet, in a few months, 26. And you've got to do things a different way. Obviously, it hasn't worked for 8 years? The name Ennui has been around for 10. 10? 10 years. It's a long time. 16-year-old Matt would be proud. What would 16-year-old Matt be doing right now? Do you know what I used to do? Instead of doing homework, I'd be like, oh, I'm working on my business. I'd be sitting down in my lounge, just watching every single season of South Park, just studying the notes and going, oh, I can do that. I can do it. I can be a white man doing a racist Asian accent. I can be funny. And then realize there actually has to be like context behind the jokes. You can't just do an Asian accent. Still trying to get over that. Okay, enough about me. Probably should move on. I do have some other things to talk about. I promise. You know, it's been a while since I've been back with the podcast. But one of the things I've been thinking about a lot was everybody has a podcast now. Like even like in like the last few months, it's like YouTube. That's one thing. YouTube is actually like promoting, hey, put your podcast on YouTube. Do a clips channel. It'd be mad. They even have like a whole like 30-page guide of how to succeed on YouTube with a podcast. And I wish I had that because I've gotten nowhere. This bit was actually going to be about, you know, how every YouTuber or celebrity has a podcast. But instead, what I've decided to do is, look, I looked up YouTube podcasts. I'm like, oh, okay. And I found this article on Podchaser, which is just a podcast. I don't know what it is. It's a fucking podcast website. Don't ask. It's a podcast website. And one thing it did, there's an article is about the 25 best podcasts hosted by YouTubers. And like, there's some on there. They're pretty good. Like, you know, the Create Unknown. Shout out Vsauce 2s, Kevin Lieber and Matt Tabor. You know, those guys have helped me out in the past. We go down and the reviews of like what these podcasts are, it's just interesting to me. Like the H3 podcast, the description for the H3 podcast is it's half YouTuber Joe Rogan experience and half observational comedy. H3's Ethan and Hila often bring on other YouTube stars and celebrities for long form interviews. We're not doing interviews. H3 podcast turns into a comedy podcast with Ethan talking about recent news and cracking jokes. What a terrible description for a podcast, for one. But describing it as like YouTuber Joe Rogan experience, you can't just take most popular podcasts in the world and then just put YouTuber in front of it and go, oh, okay. Like it's an interview podcast. I wouldn't call it, it's definitely not as good as the Joe Rogan experience. Absolutely not. I really, really do think that Ethan Klein should have sticked to making videos. You know, and he's not, okay, look, I'll admit he's not the worst. He's gotten better as a podcast, absolutely. We all have, especially me. But the thing that really, I don't know, I think that like I miss all of his old videos. I do. Like maybe that's nostalgia. Maybe that was my childhood. Same with the Filthy Frank stuff. Like you look at it, Filthy Frank, Joji now, famous musician. You know, 10 years ago, he was making a cake made of vomit and hair. And like maybe comedy's changed and maybe my sense of humor's changed, but I don't know. I feel like that. I'd rather, see that or see Ethan talk about, shitty prank channels. And like, that was, a product of its time. But I feel like that was more entertaining than him doing like, I don't know, SJW Twitter bullshit. Maybe that's just, I don't know, he leaned into that. He's very successful now. He's very rich. Successful doesn't mean good. Doesn't mean good. I don't know, maybe I'm being pretentious and just, calling him out just for the sake of, that's a catchy title for a podcast episode, but I don't know, like all my friends, all of them, fans of 83 in the podcast, and now definitely not. Definitely not. He's just not as entertaining now. I think he's not. I think he's a comedian first, podcaster second, and that works kinda when you're an actual comedian. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like a comedian can have a podcast, and fill it up with the comedic side and be good. And then like maybe the podcast side isn't as strong. But when you're like a half-assed comedian and a half-assed podcast, just makes for a shit podcast, I'm going to be honest. Maybe that's controversial. That's what we're all about here on the hashtag On We Talk podcast. What have I done in my time off of the podcast? Kendrick Lamar. Went to the Kendrick Lamar concert, rapper, great artist. Last album, great. Damn, great. But the amount of like 14-year-olds, like stinky 14-year-old boys, no deodorant, no cologne. I was stiffing them clothes. I'm just saying, like you could smell the sweat. Like I was sweaty, I didn't stink. There's all these boys and they're pushing each other and shoving each other. Abysmal. I never want to go to a hip hop concert ever again if all I'm going to experience is sweaty 14-year-old boys. That might be the dream of the Subway guy, Jared Fogle, but it's not a dream of mine. I can tell you that. What else? I've got things. I promise. Look, I'm still getting used to it. Do you know how hard it is to host a podcast by yourself? Very hard. I know I'm funny. Question of the day. If you're listening on Spotify or you're watching on YouTube, put in the comments if you think I'm funny or not. Actually, don't do that. That's cringe. What am I doing? Look, I'm just trying to host a podcast and I'm trying to do it well. Okay. I've been on Twitter a lot. Okay. And a lot of my feed is getting filled up by internet entrepreneurs. Like as I've mentioned, I'm interested in YouTube. Like I enjoy the platform, learning about it, blah, blah, blah. And because of that, like I follow some guys who are like into YouTube analytics or thumbnail design and shit like that. And then I see sort of like, okay, shit like this. Okay, this is a guy, he's a YouTube growth consultant. Okay, sure, it's a thing, I guess. His tweet was, YouTube community building hack. Reply to the comments you receive on your videos. Talk to your audience. And here's a tip. Take the name of your subscribers. Don't just write thank you. Instead, write thank you name. The latter makes the person feel more valued. I don't know what sort of fucking Gary V bullshit this is, but that's like the most cookie cutter advice. What, reply to your comments? Sure. I learned that when I was fucking 15 and I wanted to be a YouTuber. Fucking Ryan's Toy Reviews fucking replies to comments and he was fucking 7. Like that's just the most, and then look, and there's people in the responses. There's people in the replies like, oh damn, well said. A person's name is to him or her the sweetest and most important sound in any language. It might take a sec of your time, but it can create a huge impact on their emotion. What the fuck? Like, dumb. And then there's people like with like tongue-in-cheek sort of responses. Summary, create a parasocial relationship with your audience. JK, this is a good tip. What the fuck? Like, you know what? I've actually started to unfollow a lot of these YouTube gurus because it's just like cookie cutter fucking advice. Like, unless like, I know people have to start somewhere. I understand that, but I don't think you really need to like read a book or follow a YouTube growth consultant to figure out, yeah, maybe I should subscribe to comments to engage my audience. If you didn't know that from the get-go, I don't think YouTube's going to be a thing in general. Not just YouTube, entrepreneurs, but general internet entrepreneurs. There's quite a few that I've been following as well. Not just following, okay, maybe one or two, and then, but with this Twitter algorithm change, blah blah blah. There's the following tab and there's the For You tab. I'm always on the For You tab because it's the default one. There was a guy who came up and so there's this dramatic picture of him sitting at a desk and it's facing out into the city. The tweet says, "How to stop being a boy and start being a man. Step 1, delete TikTok. Step 2, put your head down, get to work. Step 3, work for 3 years. When you finally lift your head, your world will be completely different." What the fuck is this? Does this actually inspire people? Look. People have made fun of me for being a fan of Gary Vaynerchuk. And people have said to me, hey, Gary V, all he does is go hustle, hustle, hustle. And yeah, a lot of his general social media stuff is sort of like that. His books, there's a lot of stuff in there that's actually you can use it. You can take it and use it straight away. Some of his and you look at, for example, he did a daily vlog series for ages. Daily V, very creative name. And that was just following him around. And there was nuggets in there. But even you need to see that. That's it's not just advice, because it's not. It's it's entertainment. And that's what you need to take it as well. His keynotes. There's a lot of good stuff in his keynotes because the way he structured his keynotes were, hey, go on stage. Here's my general story. Answer questions. A lot of these people who ask questions, they were like, hey, Gary, I hate my job and I want to start my own company. How do I do that? And then Gary will go, fuck you. Don't ask me dumb questions. Start the business and just do it. And that's better. That's really half decent advice. Not this whole sugarcoating it. Put your head down. Delete TikTok. Delete social media. Divorce your wife. Don't talk to your kids. Kids got a soccer game. Sorry. Heads down. It's not about that. Hustle culture, yes. I will admit that I, at one point, was so into hustle culture that it was, I don't want to get a full-time job. I want to just work part-time and make chips and bag burgers and shit purely because, I need more time to hustle. When I didn't have the capacity to do that yet. I think in general, just work hard and set goals. Goal setting is the most important thing, because if you don't set goals, you're just working for the sake of working. Bit of advice from a 26-year-old failed YouTuber. But I don't know. I just I hate this fucking, and it's they're not just entrepreneurs, because they're influencers at the same time. This guy here, let's look at his bio. Pioneering synthesizing as the future of work. 600,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel. Cool. He lives in Bali now. He's a nomad. Great. Good on him for being able to be at that point. Realistically, he's in Bali, which is nice, but it's how much is he actually earning? He could probably be living off chips. I don't know, and instant mashed potato. I don't fucking know. Because these are the people who take the Gary V advice, for example. And they do well with it, but then they just recycle it. It's a, what do you call a person who does the same murders as somebody else? A copycat. That's the word. I don't know where I had to get into the murder thing. Doesn't matter. But I don't know. Just a bit over it. I think there's just do it. If you're going to start a business, don't just go scroll through Twitter for inspiration. But also don't just keep scrolling just because you're trying to, do you know what I mean? Don't just scroll just because you're trying to find something, or, don't just get TikTok and just scroll and go, oh shit, it's the end of the day now. Maybe I'll start this business tomorrow. Just like Mr. Nike said, just do it. Okay. It's not hard. It is hard, but it's not hard to start. It is hard to start. You get what I'm saying. I'm not fucking Joe Rogan. I'm not Gary Vee. I'm not going to give you advice. I'm just a guy with a mic and a Kanye West and MF Doom poster in the background. That's all I am. Just a guy trying to make it. Thanks for listening. Even though it's not the end of the podcast yet. I've got a little bit more to go. So I wrote these notes about 3 weeks ago because I've been like, oh yeah, I'll record the podcast today. Haven't. Just haven't at all. Haven't really had time because I've been working so hard at my job. You know, because I've been putting my head down. Heads down, thumbs up. But I had a bitch up my ass in the car the other day. Gripe of the week. That's what I've written. You know, so I was driving down the highway in a 100 zone and I overtook a car, double lanes. Cool. Awesome. It's a car up my ass. I'm like, okay, I'll just speed up a little bit more so I can get around this other car. It speeds up too. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to break the law just because this lays at my ass. So I just tap the brake. Tap. She goes back and then goes at my ass again. I'm like, okay, fuck you. Goes back to single lanes. And then she's fucking throwing up her hands and all this bullshit. I'm like, what the fuck? Okay, sure. Like, you know, maybe I should have tapped the brake. Maybe I should have sped up so you could have gone faster. Whatever. Then we get into the 80 zone and she's still at my ass. So I tap. She doesn't pull back this time. So I hold down my brakes. Like not dangerously, just like enough so she can get the message. I'll do that again. Hands thrown up again. Okay, like there's a speed limit for a reason. We're about to come into a 50 zone. Get up to, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm not having this. Not that I'm going to do something. It's just like, who cares? It's just the road. I'm going home. Just leave me alone. I get to the bridge that I'm about to turn onto. Put my left blinker on, and I look in my mirror and I see her clapping. Clapping because I'm turning. And I decided to be petty and I went the slowest I possibly could. 30 Ks, 20 Ks. So then once I turned, she around me. Now maybe that was petty of me. And it was. But this is the sort of person who'll go home and go, you know, she'll get home to a boyfriend. She'll go, oh, hey honey, how was work? And she'll go, this fucking guy on the road was fucking going too slow. Such a dickhead on the road. Could have caused an accident. And he'd be the type of guy to go, oh, honey, that's so bad. Like, fuck people. Fuck everyone's shit. Who the fuck cares? No one cares. Just fucking drive. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Kids are dying in Africa. You know? Worse things happen. 9/11? You know, like, fuck. Just fucking drive, cunt. Sorry, just a kids-friendly program. I probably shouldn't swear on the podcast, but that's fine. But, look, there are so many more important things to focus on than, oh, this guy went really slow on the road. Sorry. Fuck. Maybe now I'm being the pretentious one by saying this on the podcast. Maybe I am. Regardless. Okay. Look. You guys have heard of AI, yeah? Artificial intelligence. It's the big thing on the internet right now. Have you heard of Chat GPT? Maybe? Surely. So Chat GPT, you can put in prompts and it'll use AI to give you some stuff back. So if I go, oh, you know, what's the highest mountain in the world? It'll probably go Mount Kosciuszko and then give me details of Mount Kosciuszko. But I decided to be more creative. And so I started a thread where I wanted to help me write some stand-up. You know, I'm a podcaster. Maybe I want to be a comedian one day, like a proper full-blown comedian, not this fucking H3 bullshit. And, you know, why not use artificial intelligence to help me get there? So that's what I did. I gave it some prompts, and then because it's a thread, you can sort of respond to it, and it'll make changes for you. And I think ChatGPT helped me write like the best opening stand-up set that I think probably anyone's ever had. I made it a bit like YouTube based because, you know, we're on YouTube. So I'm going to give a bit of my stand-up, okay? So first of all, settle down. pretend you're in a little club, you know, this like little tiny stage, you know, little tables around, probably like max 40 people. And the guy's on stage like, okay, for our next act, he's a podcaster, he's a YouTuber, Matthew Winter. Ooh. My mum's in the back. Come on, honey, good job. Let's hear it. I'd be like, why the fuck did my mum come to my comedy show? Okay. Here's a set I come on with, okay? Should I hold the mic like I'm actually... Yeah, I will. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, how are we doing tonight? Give me a cheer if you're excited to be here. Pretty good AI. I think that's pretty good. You know what's crazy? The state of YouTube these days, it's like a wild west out there. One day you're on top of the world. The next day your channel's demonetized and you're struggling to make rent. Because of the demonetization, you know what I mean? And who do we have to thank for all this? Susan Wojcicki. Now, I don't want to insult the woman, but doesn't she sound like Mike Wazowski from Monsters, Inc.? I'm just waiting for her to start screaming, Mike Wazowski. Fuck, that if that was an actual comedy club, that joke would have bombed completely. But let's talk about some of the big names on YouTube. PewDiePie, he just had a baby. He didn't actually have a baby. He's about to have a baby. So, I got that wrong, but whatever. Can you believe that? The king of YouTube is now a dad. Now, I can only imagine the baby's first words will be, subscribe to PewDiePie. Good joke. And speaking of PewDiePie, can we all take a moment to appreciate the fact that he was able to recover from the whole Death to All Jews scandal? I mean, that's impressive. I can't even recover from a bad haircut. Yeah, okay, that's sure. Whatever. It's okay. But let's talk about Logan Paul. I know. We're all tired of hearing about him. But hear me out. Remember when he went to Japan and filmed a dead body in the suicide forest? Yeah, that was messed up. But let's be honest. He did what any of us would have done in the situation. He just happened to be filming it. I mean, if I saw a dead body in the woods, I would definitely make a vlog about it. That's just good content, people. Okay, there's a Markiplier bit coming up, so it's probably a bit better. But what about Markiplier? That man is sexy. Yep. I mean, have you seen him play horror games? He's like a human jump scare. That doesn't make any sense. I would let him narrate my life any day. And here we have Matthew Winter, typing away at his computer, procrastinating like a champ. Oh, he just took a sip of his coffee, folks. Maybe we've had some fucking Five Nights at Freddy fans in the audience that would understand that joke, but sure, we'll just go with it. And let's not forget about other YouTubers. There are so many talented creators out there that don't get the recognition they deserve. Like me, for example. That's a good joke. I mean, sure, I only have a few thousand subscribers. I have 325. But who needs millions of fans when you can have a dedicated group of 10 people who watch every video you put out? And let's be real. I'm like a fine wine. I get better with age. Or maybe that's just my ego talking. Half decent. And let's not forget about the vloggers out there. I mean, there are so many of them these days. I can't even keep track. They're all just wandering around with their cameras, talking to themselves and pretending like they're not crazy. But hey, if it helps pay the bills, more power to them. Not really a joke in there. It's a bit observational, but sure. But you know what I really miss? The good old days. When it was just a bunch of nerds sitting in front of their computers, making videos for the sheer love of it. Nowadays, it's all about the views and the sponsorships and the brand deals. But don't get me wrong, I'm not hating on people for making money. It just feels like something's been lost along the way. There is no comedy in that. That is just sad. It's true, but sad. And let's talk about the comment section for a second. I mean, who hurt these people? That's good. It's like they're all trying to outdo each other with who can be the biggest jerk. And don't even get me started on the trolls. They're like a bunch of under-the-bridge dwelling monsters just waiting to pounce on unsuspecting victims. But hey, at least they're keeping the internet interesting. Fucking hell, I feel like I'm on a fucking cruise comedian right now. In conclusion, no comedian says that. In conclusion, the state of YouTube is like a roller coaster. It has its ups and downs, its twists and its turns, and sometimes you want to throw up. But at the end of the day, it's still a fun ride. And who knows? Maybe one day I'll be the next big YouTuber. Or maybe I'll just keep making videos for my 10 dedicated fans. Either way, I'll be here refreshing my page, hoping for that sweet, sweet ad revenue. Thank you and good night. The ending was actually all right, surprisingly. I guess this does prove that AI can write stand-up, but wouldn't rely on that whatsoever. Could have been worse, though. You know what? I think that's where we're going to end things. Half an hour? Sure. I'm still getting used to it, okay? I'm talking by myself. Please, if you're listening on YouTube, watching on YouTube, I should say, please subscribe. If you found this from a clip, you know, like a YouTube short, please subscribe. If you're listening on any podcast platform, please subscribe. And you know what? In the comments, or if you're on Spotify, in the little question thing, which I can do, tell me. Tell me what you want to say. No, that was cringe. What I mean, you know what I'm trying to say? I said, like, what do you want to say on the podcast? If it's just me, I'm like a streamer now. That's how I sort of see myself now, like a streamer by himself doing IRL. Like if you're on Twitch, there's a joke in there. I don't know. Look, just like, subscribe, all that sort of fucking cliche bullshit, and I'll see you next week.